Ladies and gentlemen, members and friends, it's Matt Bailey here, your branch director for the SMWS in Australia, and we're exploring today what I would like to call October Underdogs. 3 casks from October Outturn that I think you should give a second look to. Now, none of these have actually even formally come out yet, but at the time of recording this at least, but I don't know when you're watching this, but this is a chance for you to have a look at these 3 whiskies I've picked out because I think they're 3 extraordinary whiskies and go, this is something a little bit different, something a little bit, maybe something you wouldn't have previously considered, or maybe you just go, I don't know enough about it. Now, I'm going to start with 112.107. That's a 3-digit code followed by a 3-digit code. So obviously it's bottled a lot later than say 1983 and those kind of things. 112 is one of 5 different codes that this distillery gets within the society language. That's because of the amazing diversity of different stills and different distillates that this distillery runs. They produce their own malt whiskey on site, they produce their own grain whiskey on site, they even make their own blend of that sometimes, and they have, I think it's 13 or 11 or 13 different distillate runs that they run between straight neck, swan neck, combinations of stills and column stills, etc. in making their different codes and different distillates. So that's why at the society we see 112, 122, 135, G9 and G15 at the society for 5 different code types. And we see peated and unpeated variants of all of those codes. I think, yes. I can't remember the last time we saw actually a peated 112, now that I say that, but we do see peated 122s and unpeated 122. If you see an unpeated 122, they're some of my favorites. Anyway, exotic probiotic, it's a 10-year-old whiskey. Just gonna pour a smidge here, just the tiniest bit, just have a smell and taste. It's a full maturation in a first fill ex-bourbon barrel at 60.9% single cask. Now, a lot of the whiskies we see from 112 and whatnot, especially 112s, are often like, you know, level 4 heavy char, HTMC or STR cask or wine cask or whatever, and they're really wacky wine and different wood finishes, which is always a lot of fun. This one is called exotic probiotic, but is full maturation in a first fill ex-bourbon barrel. But you'll have one nose of this and go, actually, I like how funky that is. I love how weird that is. Now, I have some friends who are not a huge fan of this style of whiskey, but I have some friends who absolutely love this as well. So it's going to be quite divisive, I think, in some ways. But if you like that sort of like funky, if you're a fan of like funky, yeasty kind of beers and things like real sort of like, I guess, real fermented style foods like kimchi or miso or those kind of things, you're probably going to be a fan of something like this because it has that sort of, it's like a probiotic milkshake, and there's like this milkshake note to it. There's this sweet sort of like, yeah, I can't get over that milkshake note. But like tapioca pearls, that's what I was looking for. That probiotic rhubarb, maybe like celery juice, maybe a bit of miso. It's got so many weird and wacky notes in this, and it's from a first fill ex-bourbon barrel, which goes to show that you can often rely on a really interesting spirit, even from I guess, a more common barrel type. Let's have a taste. Just a little taste there. That is wild and wacky. It's like, I'm getting the, like honey manuka, thick honey notes, sort of sticky date pudding. It's sweet, but it's funky, it's yeasty, it's weird. Definitely one to keep on your radar for this month's Outturn. Next Underdog in the lineup is 39.241 Vibrant Lemon Fizz in the spicy and dry flavour profile. Second fill ex-bourbon barrel, full maturation 10-year-old. This is the kind of whiskey I would call an absolute sleeper. I have not tasted this yet either, but I'm a huge fan of Distillery 39, and so are a number of my colleagues and friends who just recognize this spirit. Most of the spirit goes into blending. Most of the spirit from Distillery 39 goes into blends. And when I say most, you might think that means like 80% of it or something. I mean like 99.9% of what this distillery produces goes into a brand you might know as Johnny Walker and goes into other blends that are part of the Diageo stable. To what extent and what percentage and which ones, I don't know. But I don't think they publicly talk about that kind of stuff. It's very savory on the nose straight away. Like, not a hint of sweetness, like really like savory, spicy, biscuity, nutty dryness. Not so much biscuity in this case, it's actually quite nutty. Like Brazil nuts, cashew, all like roasted but unsalted. Maybe even not even roasted. Like raw cashew, raw macadamia straight away. A little bit of that sort of like those fatty nuts like macadamia nuts. Walnuts, definitely a bit of walnut. Nut mix, we'll call it nut mix. You could have called it nut mix. Vibrant lemon fizz is true though. There's also, it's got this sort of lemon juice, lemonade, lemon fizz, lemon whiz fizz. Let's have a smell, let's have a taste. Holds up really nice on the palate. Super biscuity, super savory, super nutty lemon, like lemon drizzle on a nut mix. That's a summer dram if I've ever had one. That's a lovely summer dram. That's the kind of whiskey you'd want to have all summer long. Lovely. So that is one, again, 39s aren't, and that's not a sexy distillery, but they make great distillate. So a lot of the codes that you often see members running for, and this is talking about that Underdog theme for a moment, you often see people really jumping on codes and some flavor profiles as well, like deep rich and dried fruits and heavily peated and whatnot, which is fine. But really jumping in for codes that they go, oh, I love their core range. Comparing them makes no sense to me. Because what we bottle at the society, what we bottle from our casks of this distillate is often, if not always, so far removed from the house style of that distillery that it's not really worth comparing. And that goes the same for when they don't really have a core range. In this case, these guys don't. Someone can leave a comment and tell me about Flora and Fauna. I've had that before, that's fine. I call that sort of almost extended range, not core range. But this distillery doesn't have a single malt market really. You can't walk into, say, a BWS and pick up a bottle of this distillery. It starts with L. However, it's a fantastic distillate that's often quite intriguing and interesting, but just doesn't need its own single malt because most of it goes, it's a workhorse distillery. Like most distilleries in Scotland, they are workhorse distilleries that make whiskey for blends and supermarket blends and all sorts of different projects, but including sometimes when we get to pick out some single casks and mature them ourselves a lot of the time. So 39.241, one of 165 bottles worldwide. It's herbaceous, it's nutty, it's delicious, it's lemon, it's got sweetness, it's got everything going on, but it's not a sexy code. So I'd call that an Underdog. My third Underdog pick is one that, if you're a malt whiskey fan already, if you're an SMWS fan, you'll know Distillery 19. You've seen a few of them already. 19.69 roasted strawberry and rhubarb crepes. Spicy and sweet flavor profile, 18-year-old full maturation in a first fill ex-bourbon barrel. Let's just have a little nose and taste of this one. So full maturation, 18-year-old. This is an old school distillery. This distillery is part of the Beam Suntory folio. So if you think you've got your Ardmore, you've got your Lefroy, you've got distilleries that they own, you've also got this distillery, Distillery 19. And the best way to describe the distillate from Distillery 19 is old school. Like it picks up some of that lovely old dunnage floor, earthen sort of potted plants, and dusty old bookshelf notes. Like it's one of those distillates where if you're into whiskey, you'll immediately go, yeah, that's cool. That's one of those sort of distillates that's a bit sort of cult status because they do have a core range, but it's fleeting in that you don't really see it very often. It doesn't pop up for sale and it's not regularly available, but the strawberry note on that is bang on. And rhubarb crepes, like this time there's a bit of that nut mix as well, but it's like sugared nuts, like sugary almonds. I do get a bit of earth and floor on this one. I get a bit of that potted plants. I get that dunnage, that sort of dusty old dunnage. And dunnage meaning a low rise, maximum sort of 3 casks high, old school maturation warehouse. And what's the proof on this one? 54.6%. I'm getting a bit of like like tomato paste. There's a lot going on here. Let's have a quick taste. Oh, I want one of those. I might buy one of those actually. I think I'm going to get one of those. That's delightful. This is, I mean, I think especially if we're looking at contextually as well, we're looking at a whole bunch of, I've had a bunch of 19s through. There was one called 50s Mouthwash. There was another one called, I can't remember all the names off the top of my head, but we've had a whole bunch of 19s through, which have mostly been 18-year-old casks that people have tasted and said, you know what, it's incredible value and it's incredible whiskey, and it's single cask whiskey from that distillery that is just shockingly tasty stuff, especially like this one. There's my 3 picks for 3 Underdogs from Outturn, October Outturn this month. Hope to see you at some of our events, hope to see you online, hope to see you in Outturn, and Sanjiva, cheers, however you are, wherever you enjoy it, all those kind of things, and I'll see you soon. Cheers, bye.